In this episode, we talk about the Mizoram government once again defying the directives of the central government. We also talk about why women in India are more likely to die of cancer and what a new report says about it. But first, we talk about how the RSS is trying to revamp its image. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Over the years, the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is the ideological parent of the BJP, has been viewed as an organization that favors majoritarianism and that wants India to be primarily a Hindu nation.
Because of its rhetoric of, Hindu Rashtra and that this is a Hindu nation, that all Indians are actually Hindus. So everybody understands it in that context, and because it keeps making that ideological point over and over again.
That's Indian Express's Deeptiman Tiwary. And he says that this is the image that RSS now wants to change.
There's a feeling within the RSS that this is not the only work that RSS does. Like if there is an earthquake, so RSS workers in that area, they arrange for food, clothing, shelter for people. But that is not something people ever get to know. Their idea is that at the grassroots level, there is so much else that we are doing other than just making statements. People only hear statements of our top leaders. But on the ground, there are millions of workers who are simply doing social work. So that is never getting documented, and people do not see us as a social power and only see us as a political power, only as a political organization which is trying to transform this nation into some kind of a Hindu state or something. So there is a feeling within the RSS that this perception needs to change.
And to do that, to change people's perception about them, the RSS has been employing various methods. These methods include engaging with news organizations, participating in literature festivals, launching books, and even supporting certain types of movies that align with their vision of India, such as the Kashmir Files. To know more about how the RSS is trying to shed their majoritarian image, we speak to Deeptiman in this segment. Deeptiman, you write that traditionally RSS has been very media shy. For years, it wasn't very open to speaking to the media. Talk about since when have we seen this change come about?
Yes, traditionally RSS has not just been shy of the media, it has been suspicious of the media. It is believed that the media is populated by left liberal people who are not here to even listen to us, let alone understand us. And two, they have traditionally believed that it is populated with elite English-speaking people who are not rooted in the Indian culture, and so they do not understand our cultural nationalism. And so they believe that whatever we say will be misconstrued and we will only make bad headlines, or we will only be made to look stupid by newspapers. I am not trying to argue whether people have understood them correctly or not understood them correctly. That is not a debate we are getting into. However, now that there is an understanding that now that we are in power, we have a prime minister who is perhaps one of the most popular prime ministers that the country has seen, was actually an RSS Pracharak. He's a Swayamsevak. The government is full of RSS people. Suddenly RSS is not a fringe organization. It is a mainstream organization. People want to associate themselves with RSS. So there is a realization within the RSS that, no matter, even if we try, we cannot stay out of the media limelight. There is no escaping this. So we might as well do it well. And that is why what we see now is, in 2016, Dattatreya Hosable, who is the current General Secretary of the RSS, he goes to a media conclave. And in 2017, he even went to the Jaipur Lit Fest. Again, a Lit Fest is again associated with, left liberal writers, giving sermons on India and Indian history and Indian culture, which they have scoffed at traditionally. They have always said that, they have twisted history and they propagate a narrative which is not a true reflection of Indian culture and history.
Right. So is it basically to counter that they're now coming out with their own books and taking part in book launches?
Yes, so there are two things in that. One is that earlier RSS used to publish books for internal consumption that our workers, our leaders will read. And it's like a CPM booklet, which is for CPM workers. Okay, so now what they have started doing is they have started publishing books, one for general readers, two, books which go beyond their ideological thought. Now, these are not books which are meant for that workers read and become more ideologically rooted, that they understand the ideology of the organization and all. No. Now they have started documenting their social work so that public, general people start to understand that, okay, RSS is more than just Hindu-Muslim. It is doing a lot of other work also, so that people's perception about the RSS changes. Okay, so similarly, they have started engaging with cinema. Like somebody like Mohan Bhagwat going to the screening of a Bollywood film. I mean, when have we last heard K.S. Sudarshan going to, or Bala Saheb Devaraj going to the screening of a film? It has never happened. But now they have started going to screening of movies, talking about movies, something that they have not done in the past. They've even created a sort of an organization which actually has an aim to promote cinema which is closer to the understanding of India that RSS has. They are even trying to create a fund to promote such films and will continue to do so and has been doing so. They have in fact conducted 4 film festivals in this regard already. So these are some of interesting changes that we have seen.
And could you give some examples of the kind of movies they have supported recently?
Yeah, such as the Prithviraj Chauhan, which RSS chief went to watch himself. Then Kashmir Files. So these are movies which are like closer to their idea of India. And they believe that these are movies which are more culturally rooted and, take pride in the glory of idea of the Hindu nation that they have. And so they vocally support these movies, make statements in support of these movies and go to their screenings. Another very important change that we've seen, which was totally unprecedented, was recently people got an invitation of an RSS event through a professional public relations company. This is something that RSS has never done. Some RSS pracharak, some media in charge who is there, who will send these invites and people would come. But this company has not only got engaged in, sending press releases and sending invites, but they even organize the event, ensuring that people come to the event, they are provided a place to stay, and that they cover the event. So this was a big deal. This never happened. Also, obviously, because there is a government, so they get certain support. So their events are organized at big venues such as Vigyan Bhavan, Ambedkar International Center, IGNCA. So when events happen at such places, they do grab eyeballs.
And Deeptiman, RSS is not an organization, I suppose, that has any direct political ambitions, as in it is not like RSS wants to become a political party. So then why does it want to change its perception in the eyes of the people?
Look, let's understand that it's going to be almost 100 years since RSS was formed. 100 years is a long, long time. Okay. And in these 100 years, it has got political power twice. Once under Atal Bihari Vajpayee and now under Narendra Modi, which you would say, substantial amount of political power, rule over the country. So what is the basic aim of the RSS? The basic aim of the RSS is to change the way this country is structured, to change the way this nation thinks about itself. Okay, RSS has always argued that this nation has serious inferiority complex. It does not take pride in itself because it is unaware of its glorious history. So, there are debates around it, whether this is a correct, articulation of understanding of India or not, because India is a land that has seen multiple influences and all these influences have actually shaped it to what it is today. So whether all glory is to be sought from a certain period is a matter of debate, which academics do all the time. We know about it. But it has a certain belief and faith that it needs to shape the nation a certain way. Now, to shape the nation, the socio-politics of a nation a certain way, you don't need just power. You also need social acceptability. Now, it has always had a certain social base which supports it. But it knows that it has been there for 100 years. And it's not that the entire country is supporting it. For a large section of the population, it is just a Hindu-Muslim organization. In fact, even for a lot of its core supporters, it is a Hindu-Muslim organization. So if it wants fence-sitters to come to its side, Okay, those who hate it will continue to hate it. Those who love it will continue to love it. But there is a large section of population which is undecided, which is sitting on the fence. So if you want to bring about a decisive socio-political change in the country, you have to get the fence sitters on your side. And to get the fence sitters on your side, you cannot look extremist. So that is why it is trying to take a middle path to become more moderate, to show that it is more than just Hindu-Muslim. It is doing a lot for the society, that it has been misunderstood. And so people should associate with it, people should join it, people should understand it, and people should understand its point of view. And that point of view, according to it, is more than just Hindu-Muslim, is more than the incident of partition.
And next we talk about Mizoram. In April of this year, the Ministry of Home Affairs had instructed Mizoram and Manipur to gather biometric and biographic information from what they refer to as illegal immigrants. Now, it is important to note that both these northeastern states have experienced a significant influx of refugees from neighboring Myanmar. And while Manipur has complied with the central government's instructions, Mizoram, which is heading to the polls later this year, said last week that it would not be collecting any such data, essentially defying the centre's directive. To understand the implication of this move, my colleague Utsa Sarmin speaks to Indian Express's Sukrita Baruah in this segment.
So Sukrita, can you first tell us what is the refugee situation in Mizoram at the moment?
So Mizoram in India's northeast shares a long border with neighboring Myanmar, and this is a 510-kilometer long border which is porous in nature. So when the February 2021 military coup happened in Myanmar, there was a full-blown refugee crisis and thousands were fleeing the brutal repression against dissidents that was happening in the country. And like in other neighboring areas, thousands of refugees also crossed over the Indo-Myanmar border and entered Mizoram seeking refuge. Now, both Mizoram and Manipur share borders with Myanmar. And at the time, the central government sent directions to seal these borders, to stop the flow of refugees in. While Manipur has been in line with the center on this issue, the Mizoram government has been defiant. And despite the center's order, they kind of ignored it and they welcomed and sheltered many of these refugees. And they reside in mostly along the border areas itself. And this continued into this year. So earlier this year, there were airstrikes very close, just close to the Indo-Myanmar border. So then again, a fresh wave of refugees had come in. So this is a constant thing. And, official figures have generally, the estimates have been around more than 30,000 people. Though I did speak to one of the ministers and he put the number at around 60,000. Not just from Myanmar, but also from the Chittagong hill tracts in Bangladesh, which also have people from the same ethnicity as the people of Mizoram.
Right, and why had the central government asked them to collect the biometric and biographic details of the refugees?
So earlier this year, the Ministry of Home Affairs directed both the Manipur and the Mizoram governments to begin collecting biometric and biographic data of, I quote, illegal immigrants in these states. And this is largely seen as a preliminary step to facilitate pushing them back to their countries of origin. So the process began. So this is soon before full-blown conflict erupted in Manipur. And the process of collection began in Manipur in July this year. And they did begin it. But what the Manipur government is saying is that because of the ongoing conflict, we're struggling to complete this exercise. We need more time. On the other hand, Mizoram has kind of put its foot down and now they're saying that we won't do this exercise at all. Keep in mind that in June this year, the Ministry of Home Affairs reiterated the direction to collect this data and they said that this should be completed by September 30. So given that this deadline was approaching, the Mizoram government has come out and openly said that we are not going to do this.
Right, and do we know why the Mizoram government declared that they will not collect the data of the refugees?
So, this defiance by the Mizoram government is in line with its earlier defiance against the center's orders to not allow refugees to come in. So, the people of Mizoram and the Chin people who live in the Chin state in Myanmar are of basically the same ethnicity. And this is a contiguous region, right? But in the drawing of borders, it was kind of split and they were kind of divided on both sides of the border. So what the Mizoram government keeps saying, and even Mizoram civil society keeps saying, is that the people who are there on the other side are our kith and kin. They're our relatives and they're of our same ethnicity. So we can't turn our backs on them at a time of, humanitarian crisis and they need our aid. So they've been providing for these people all this while. And now when they're saying that we're not going to collect the biometric data, the reasoning that is being offered is the same. That if once we collect the biometric data, that's a first step towards pushing them back. And we can't do this to our brothers and sisters. So this is the kind of, complex geopolitics that is in play in this region, which the Mizoram government is emphasizing at this point of time.
And we know that Mizoram is going to elections later this year. Can you tell us the kind of significance this refugee issue has on the state's politics?
Right. So the minister who I had spoken to, Mr. Lal Ruatkin, he was pretty open about the fact that along with the Home Ministry's deadline, what is also approaching is the Mizoram State Legislative Assembly elections. So this is a deeply emotive issue. Like I said, the welcoming and sheltering of the refugees is not just by the state government, but civil society has really gone out of its way to shelter the refugees from Myanmar. And it is an emotive, sensitive issue. So what he said was that, the assembly elections are approaching and this is a political issue, I quote, and that we can't make any move on this issue until the elections are done and dusted. So currently in Mizoram, we have the Zoramthanga-led Mizo National Front government. And, during the course of this time, he's really consolidated a position for himself and cultivated this image of being a leader, not just of the Mizos in Mizoram, but, of the larger Mizo Kuki Chin ethnic group. So even in the ongoing conflict in Manipur, there have been a lot of internally displaced people from the Kuki-Zomi community of Manipur. And large numbers of them, more than 12,000 of them, have been sheltered in Mizoram. So that kind of leadership has been exhibited by him. He is constantly in touch. He has very publicly held meetings with the 10 Kuki MLAs in the Manipur Legislative Assembly. So that's a kind of image that Zoramthanga has kind of made. So I would think that this defiance is also, crucial to retain that kind of image.
Right, and we understand that this is not the first time that Mizoram has gone against the central government, despite being a part of the NDA government at the center, right?
Right. So again, the MNF's dynamic with the BJP is very interesting. So in Mizoram itself, the MNF is not in partnership with the BJP. The BJP has just one MLA in Mizoram, and that MLA is not a part of the government. He is a part of the opposition. But in the larger national NDA, MNF is a part of this alliance. However, even though it's a part of the NDA, like on this issue, it has been at odds with the union government on other issues as well. So, of course, there's the earlier defiance with regard to welcoming refugees. Now the defiance of an order to collect biometrics. It was the first state where the Legislative Assembly unanimously passed a resolution against the Uniform Civil Code earlier this year. And this is even before the conversation on UCC really picked up later in the year, and it has taken a strong stand against the UCC. In the recent Legislative Assembly session, it also passed a resolution against the Forest Conservation Amendment Act. So these are just some recent instances. But yeah, the MNF is a partner in the NDA, but it's a pretty, it stands its ground and it defies the union government on an issue basis.
Right, and also Sukrita, you mentioned that the Manipur government had started collecting the data, but due to the ethnic conflict that started in May, the process was halted. So do we know what they're saying about this now?
So the Manipur government is very much in line with the union government, and they keep saying, we know by now that the Biren Singh-led government has repeatedly pinpointed on, I quote, illegal immigration from Myanmar being one of the root causes of the turmoil in Manipur. So they are in line with the directive to collect biometric. On Thursday, the Union Ministry of Home Affairs has extended the timeline to, I think, April next year. So they have got more time now to complete this exercise.
And in the end, we talk about why women in India are more likely to die of cancer. A recent report published by the international science journal Lancet has found that more than half of the deaths due to cancer in Indian women could have been prevented. The report is titled Women, Power and Cancer, and it highlights how even though men are at a higher risk of cancers that affects both genders, cancer incidence and mortality in women remains high. The report also flags some of the hurdles women face while accessing healthcare in India and also explains the reasons behind it. When we spoke to Indian Express's Anonna Dutt, she told us more about the report.
So the report actually looked at the disparity in cancer care based on the gender of people. So the main focus was looking at, how women across the world access cancer care, whether there are delays because of the gender.
According to Anonna, the report highlights the existence of social apathy towards women's health, a lack of knowledge, and the absence of quality expertise at the primary care level. The report says that this is the reason why access to cancer prevention, detection, and care has been delayed for thousands of women across the country.
So when it comes to India, the report said that 63% of the premature cancer deaths were preventable either by, protecting the women from risk factors such as tobacco or, HPV infection, etc. And then early screening, timely diagnosis, all of this could have prevented 63% of the premature deaths due to cancers in women in India. And 37% of these premature deaths could also have been prevented by timely treatment, optimal care. So what this shows is there's a huge chunk of these deaths that can be prevented by very simple strategies. And that is the whole point of this report in how to make cancer care more gender inclusive.
She says that the Lancet report also flagged the lack of decision-making and financial powers as one of the main reasons why cancer incidence and mortality in women remains high. And the report also highlights strategies to overcome these challenges. Many of these strategies are focused on increasing awareness about different types of cancers and their treatments.
So one of the most important interventions could be, just making people aware. So for example, one of the doctors from AIIMS said, our population, whatever the education level, when we did a campaign on COVID-19 where we said that the vaccine can actually protect you from untimely death due to COVID, people turned up at the vaccination centers. Similarly, if we have information campaigns that can help bringing more women out to get screened, to get a diagnosis, and then once diagnosed, of course, receive treatment on time.
Anonna says that the top two cancers in India, breast and cervical, were the leading causes of cancer deaths among women. But both these cancers are preventable and treatable.
So for years, cervical cancer used to be the top killer among women. Now the incidence and mortality from cervical cancer is on the decline, but we also see an increase in, say, breast cancers among women. So the best way to prevent, reduce deaths due to these cancers is to get tested. So for cervical cancer, you would need a gynecologist to do a pap smear. For that, you should get the test, say, after the age of 25 to about 65 years. And you have to go to any gynecologist. They would have the pap smear kit. You can also have an HPV test, which tests for the presence of the virus that causes the cancer. So these two tests, the first test can be done annually, and the second test can be done, say, once in 5 or 10 years to keep a check. Other than that, just the examination of the genital area by a gynecologist can also help. So that could be a part of your routine annual checkup.
She says for cervical cancer, there are also other interventions, like getting the HPV vaccine before the age of 25.
So girls before the age of 25, they can get the vaccine, before they have any sexual activity. So the vaccine actually prevents the entry of the virus into the body. Why is it important? It's because the HPV or human papilloma virus is the biggest, it's the cause of the largest chunk of cervical cancers. So if you prevent the infection, you reduce the risk for cervical cancer. Then for breast cancer, you can have a simple intervention like getting your breasts checked, either a self-checkup, so women can be taught how to do a self-breast exam, or, annually have a breast checkup with the GP at the local healthcare center. Then after the age of 40 years, women can get a mammography to check for breast cancer every year.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, with help from Utsa, Sarmin, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.